No! I forgot to unmute. I'm hoed, bro. I'm hoed. Let's see. Bing, bong, bong. Bing, bong, bong, bong. What's up? Boom, boom. Boom, boom. Boom, boom, ba-dum, ba-dum, boom. Hey, Cody! Ding, ding, ding. Ding, 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 ding. Ding, ding, ding. Ding, 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 ding. All right, we're chilling. We're chilling for right now. Let's see. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, 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 bang. Bang, bang, bang. Bang, 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 bang. We're chilling till everyone gets in here. I'm a little concerned because it's raining outside, so I hope that's what the banana had fell on a special needs kid named Cody in elementary. He screamed and punched me and we both got puddled in the office. Okay, Cody. I've learned a lot in these. What has it been? A minute? Less than 2 minutes? So I guess that event was traumatic enough to then put it as your fucking YouTube name. That's also kind of just a wild thing. I feel like you turned your trauma into a username, and you might need to work that out because I feel like that's gonna be a concerning situation to be in. It's raining here, Ohio. It's raining here in Georgia. It's rain everywhere, man. It's wet out here in these streets. That doesn't sound right. God damn it. God, it doesn't sound right. No. Oh, Lord, this isn't good. I shouldn't have said it. So wait until we get a decent squad in here, and then we're going to have a conversation about death and anime. Because those things are important. Those things are an important part of our culture. Anime is an important part of our culture. And then I found out that was like a fucking YouTube meme. Not a YouTube meme. No, a TikTok thing. Yeah. Welcome everybody. I'm gonna give us a little bit for everyone to kind of show up and chill. It's funny because I realistically could have streamed earlier. I just didn't. So, am I gonna talk about Ash's deaths? It's kind of hard. I mean, Ash's death is a good example of poor writing, death-wise, because none of his deaths are taken seriously. Well, I won't say it's not taken seriously. It's hard for the viewer to take Ash's death seriously because they do it so much. They do it at least more than they probably should. I think the first movie is the only movie that is allowed to get away with Ash's deaths, for lack of a better term. Like, I think the first movie for Pokemon is the only one that's allowed to have an Ash death. The second movie, I think, is a better version of that death. And even then, that was kind of dangerous to do. I mean, I eat bananas. I won't say I love bananas. I'm kind of indifferent. I know they're good for me. I just don't drink them as much. I also have to get out of the habit, apparently, of drinking Aquafina. The problem is when you grow up poor, you're used to drinking poor man drinks. And I'm not saying this is a poor man's drink as much as I'm saying I don't have any fucking money. So this is what happens. You end up drinking this stuff for the sake of hydration and whatnot. But like I said, I'm going to give you guys a little bit for the squad to come in here before we start talking about the specifics of death in anime and how well written and how poorly written a death is. Do you miss living? Oh, do I miss living in my old house? It's like half and half. There's a comfort that people have when you live with other people, especially your family, which are people you've probably lived with for a decent amount of time in your life. So there will always be a part of you who's like, I miss the family experience. I miss waking up and my mother's cooking breakfast and my sister's probably in the other room making noise, being silly, whatever. A part of that I will always miss. At the same time, there's a level of peace that you don't get when you're not when you're by, like, if you're someone who needs peace in their mind, you won't obtain it through, you can't obtain peace sometimes with people around you. That people don't realize, and I think this is what COVID did for a lot of people, made you sit down and kind of face yourself, deal with your own issues, and kind of have some self-reflection. Because let's be real here, at a certain point, people start moving so fast and jumping between this and that and the third, they kind of lose sight of themselves, and what they end up doing is like kind of using busyness as a way to hide their own problems and pain and struggles. Because the moment you have to sit down and think about your problems means you have to then acknowledge what you're doing wrong and why are you doing it this way and what you can do to fix it. And people don't like that. People don't like acknowledging their faults because it's hard. Hey, Orion Sword. Yeah, that's just how the viewer thing goes. I mean, as far as the stream situation, that is the nature of having a YouTube channel, that once you dip your foot in controversial topics and YouTube's algorithm changed, well played, Ryan. Hey, Richie. Once you start doing controversial or like more adult topics, YouTube essentially goes, you're not really marketable. So most of the views I get now are between people who've been subscribed for years and the occasional new viewer I might get through a passing topic correlation, which is about what I expected. Unfortunately, adult content isn't really, let me first, I won't say adult content, I'll say mature content. Some people go, why don't you say adult content? Adult content is different. Adult content can easily be something like sexual in nature, and we all know that stuff gets plenty of views. But like adult content in terms of like talking, conversations, and thought processes, that stuff it's a little bit harder to have conversations about and then stay monetized, because all you gotta do is make one controversial opinion. Like, the funny thing I've already recognized is, if my channel ever blew up to where I was getting like 100K views or whatever, dog, there's so many videos on here that would be viewed as incriminating. Some of the jokes I've made, it'll never happen. Not that I'm really tripping off of that anyway. I get the wrench. You have to become a mod, Cody. I have to mod you, which unfortunately, when you keep retracting all your comments, it kind of defeats the purpose of modding. What's the topic? Yeah, sorry, Ryan. Sorry. Hey, listen, as you know, sometimes you just start talking and it becomes a stream of consciousness. That's all it is. Anyways, now Neji was the best anime death of all time. Jesus Christ. So, all right, so when it comes to death in anime, I think death, for the most part, is a necessary part of any story. It makes no sense to have any story that doesn't have any stakes or any consequences for actions. Good or bad, there needs to be some sort of consequence for any mistakes that are made. Or just things that happen. I mean, if you're in a world that death doesn't exist, then it doesn't feel real, because everyone suffered a loss or will suffer a loss. Later, Cody. So every series handles death differently. Most shows do. I think the two methods I've seen the most are the traditional dying in a story situation, and then I like to call it kind of the One Piece, and even Black Clover does this method, which is there's not a lot of death in like the main plot line. What I mean by that is that One Piece, for example, is a show that was notoriously known for not killing characters like during the main timeline of the show. But what it would do is it would kill a bunch of characters in flashbacks. It would kill, like, most Straw Hats have a loss that they have suffered in their series. Like, every Straw Hat has lost somebody. What is it? Luffy would be his brother. Zoro would be Kuina. Sanji would be... actually, Sanji, I think, is the only character who hasn't lost family. His family are all still alive. Who he views as his true father is still alive. Actually, yeah, Sanji's like one of the few characters that hasn't really lost anything, ironically enough. Nami lost Belmare. Who am I missing? Chopper lost Dr. Hairlock. Robin lost. It would have been Saul and her mother, but realistically now she just lost his. Oh yeah, that's right, his mother. You're right. You're right, Apex. You're right, Apex. I completely forgot about his mother. His mother's dead. Robin's mother's dead. Because apparently Saul's alive, and I can say that because the anime just got to that episode, so it is what it is. And then was it Jinbei lost Fisher Tiger and Otohime, right? Every One Piece does that thing where the majority of its main storyline characters don't die, but there's always a backstory character who's going to die, always, right? Black Clover does the same thing. Like, there's no real main character member who dies in like the main story of Black Clover. But like, it's hard to go through Black Bulls. Asta lost both his parents. Yuno lost his father. I think his mother's still alive, right? Yeah, I think Yuno's mother's still alive. I think, or maybe both of his parents. I don't remember which, but I know his mother's still alive. But I think his father's gone. We don't know anything about most of the Black Bulls' backstories. Obviously, Yami's parents are dead. We know this from the recent chapters covering like his little sister and whatnot. Nock lost his older brother, or I guess twin brother, technically. Nock lost his twin brother. Zora lost his father. Or Zara. Well, no, Zara's the father. Zora lost his father. Most of the Black Bulls, technically, Nero lost the king. Noelle lost her mother, and her father was never in the picture. Like, Black Clover does the same thing. Covering death, but like as a backstory thing. There's death in all of these series. You got the stuff like a Naruto where we lose Jiraiya in the middle of the story. Like we lose Neji in the middle of the story. Like we lose the third Hokage in the middle of the story. That's current timeline death. And then you got past death that's covered. And both of these methods serve different purposes. I would say in a lot of ways, well, I wouldn't even say that. They don't serve different purposes. They both achieve the same thing. They're meant to be, they either cause a major change in the story or the plot, or they're used as motivation for a certain character's development, right? That's kind of the whole premise behind a character death. But I've heard a lot of people, I don't know how people feel about each of those I would say, unfortunately, and this is hard to say, One Piece / Black Clover has the weaker form of these types of deaths. And the reason why is because One Piece and Black Clover do that thing where they have characters in situations where they almost die that they should have just died in. One Piece is probably the most notorious with it. Black Clover has like a handful of situations like that. One Piece has a decent amount of situations where characters are just surviving situations that don't make sense, like at all. Because I think, and I know why Oda does it. Oda does it because he thinks every character has a part to play, right? Every character can do something that will lead into something else that will eventually lead into something important. So because of that, he refuses to kill characters a lot of the times. Like, for example, I think Pell is the first aggressive example. Pell was such a, are you shitting me? Especially considering how much Pell gets fucked up in Alabasta. You said, yeah, at a certain point, people were just like, bro, he took a bomb to the face and somehow walked that shit off. Like, how are you walking off getting a nuke blown up in front of you where you had nothing to shield yourself? They don't even explain it. That's the kicker. They don't even explain how Pell survives that explosion. He just survives. They do this with a couple characters. Even currently I'm rewatching Water 7 with Nessa, although she's on vacation right now, but that's what we're watching. The assassination attempt on Iceberg, right? When they first come in and they shoot Iceberg. Iceberg gets shot. I think they say he gets shot like 9 times. He gets shot like a stupid amount of time. It's possible. Obviously, 50 Cent has proven it is possible to survive all that. But some of the abuse some of these characters go through is just like, bro, how are you still alive? Now, granted, it's anime and you kind of have to suspend some level of disbelief, especially in One Piece. One Piece does this with even human characters. Even things like Usopp's gone through. If you hit a man dead face point blank with a 4-ton bat, most men are dead. Actually, I would say all men are dead. You don't just take that hit and then it's still fully functional after the fact. Usopp took that back to the head twice, to the head. Well, I won't say twice, but I say twice because he gets hit again later in Wano, but like where it cracks his skull. No normal person takes those hits, and it's funny because they always go, Usopp is considered the normal human, which is fair. He is. He is the normal human of One Piece, but that still low-key makes him like weirdly inhuman because he can take hits that don't make any sense. But the problem with the One Piece storytelling style is that death kind of seems like a minor inconvenience. And lately he's been doing this thing with, like, I would say Sabo and Saul are the best examples. Characters who you thought were dead are now not actually dead. Sabo, I'm willing to forgive considering his situation. Saul, it just seems like convenient. It seemed like, why not? To be fair, I'm a biased Robin fanboy, so I not sweet sleep stream. So you see, Jesus Christ, Donnie, what the hell? I'm a Robin stan, so I'm a little more forgiving of Saul, but the Saul one seems a little ridiculous and convenient. It also makes certain backstory and moments not hit as hard in some situations because you kind of like, oh well, the character's actually alive, so But the Sabo thing, it more just strengthened Ace's resolve to be the kind of brother for Luffy that he needed. Do you think death of Kobe and the end of One Piece would be narratively impactful in the final arc of the story, the way how it would matter as well? Of course, just something I know considered. I don't see the point killing Kobe because it depends if the series ends in this current timeline. What I mean is that we don't jump ahead in if we don't jump ahead in the future like another 10, 20, 10, 15 years, that's what changes the conversation as far as Kobe's concerned. To me, I'm more willing to see Luffy die than Kobe. Kobe's role is too important. He's a character who's literally meant to be the next generation of quality Marines. Realistically, if Oda wanted to, he could literally write a story of Kobe's rise in the Marine ranks. Instead of it being like the side story in the main series, it could literally be its own story. Like by the time we have granted, if you're anime only, you haven't seen it yet, but there's something coming up later where Kobe actually has like a decent string of fans and people who like ride or die for Kobe, right? Some of these people are just randomly introduced and you're just like, oh, they fuck with Kobe, but we don't know the full details of why and what he did. Even like the Rockport incident that we never know the full extent of. We just know it benefited Blackbeard and it made Kobe get a name for himself. But we don't know the specifics of what happened during that incident. But we know something happened that was of importance to Blackbeard and Kobe himself. They both gained notoriety from that and both benefited from that. Like Kobe by himself can really run his own series. It's just whether or not we're going to do it, right? But I'm deviating too much from the death conversation. So that's the first critique, is that unfortunately I think the One Piece / Black Clover way of doing death is, I think, somewhat is detrimental because it makes you not take major, like give me an example. How do I say this? There's a character who has been wounded in One Piece, right? Currently, there's a character who's been wounded in One Piece, right? In a position that you think they're not going to make it, right? Here's the problem. This is One Piece, and everyone knows if you've watched One Piece long enough, characters don't die in the main plot of One Piece often, if at all. And the only time it happens is if something major is about to go down or it's going to make a major change. Now, granted, the character who is wounded in One Piece could potentially do that, but we'll see. Because once again, One Piece doesn't kill characters. So every time a character gets mortally wounded in One Piece, there's a level of me not taking it seriously because it's One Piece. One Piece has lied to me consistently. Technically, there's a dead character in Black Clover right now. But once again, you've lied to me before, so I'm a lot more skeptical. I still haven't even seen that movie, Orion. That's the funny thing. I still haven't seen that movie. But the problem with but my point is that like it makes me not take the series as seriously due to me expecting this weird like, oh no, a character's been mortally wounded. Oh no, what's gonna happen? And then by the end of the arc, they're either A, fine on some off-screen shit that we don't know about, or B, some random shit out of nowhere comes and saves them. Or C, they just didn't die from the hit or the shot or the whatever, right? I mean, hell, they did that. Technically, they did it in Alabasta twice. They did that with Igaram when they blew up the boat. Now, granted, that one's kind of played off as since Nico Robin was casually kind of helping them in certain situations, that she didn't straight out kill Igaram. Like she would play both sides, so that one was a little bit different. But still, it's a lot of these like weird, you should have been dead, but you're not dead kind of moments. So the only time I expect characters to die in One Piece most of the time are in flashbacks. Flashbacks is when characters die. Actually, that's kind of Oda's way of coping with that situation. He doesn't make a lot of straight out tragedies of character deaths in the main timeline. So what he does is he turns fucking their backstories into some of the most tragic shit that's going on. For you guys in the chat, you've already seen some of it if you've been watching the anime. Kuma's backstory is absolutely ridiculous. Like, good God, man. You kept putting this man. It's crazy when you recontextualize some of his lines and statements in previous arcs. And you're just like, man, Oda, you a sick son of a bitch. This is what we get. This is my trade-off. Because you won't kill characters in the main timeline, every character has this really traumatic backstory and really shouldn't even be functioning as a human being. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. But so I think doing present time deaths is more important. But there is a right way and a wrong way to do a death in present time. So I'm going to take one of the more popular deaths because it was in a movie that everybody saw. And I know everybody saw it because it became the highest grossing anime film ever, right? Let's talk about Rengoku from Demon Slayer, ladies and gentlemen. You guys ready to talk about Donut Boy? Now, I say this being a One Piece fan, so it's not like that he's the only donut, but we make the joke with Rengoku because he's one of the more recent donuts. But guys, you want to talk about, let's talk about Rengoku. So I guess the first question I have to ask you guys in the chat, do you think Rengoku's death was impactful? Do you like the way his story was handled and how he died? Or is it one of those like, it's all right. I need to see where everyone feels about Rengoku's death, just out of their personal opinion. Do you like his death? Do you dislike his death? Do you think it was well done? Do you think it was rushed? Do you think it was too slow? I'm just trying to get opinions here. What do y'all think about Rengoku's death from Demon Slayer? I'm also picking a show that I'm serious that everyone's seen mostly. Like most modern anime fans have seen Demon Slayer. Or you've read the manga for Demon Slayer. So you've seen his death. Like his death is like a death I can spoil without worrying about too much of spoilers. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to compare his death to another death of a character in a similar manner. So please give your thoughts and opinions real quick. It's funny, I have 10 viewers, like nobody. I have like a handful of chatters, but it's fine. But yeah, I'm trying to just get the general opinions on Rengoku's deaths before I go into this. Because I'm going to compare him to another character. But I want to talk about his death first. Like, properly. Which I guess I can properly explain it for those who don't know. So Rengoku is one of the Hashira in the Demon Slayer series. I couldn't care less for Rengoku, to be honest. I feel like such vibe was done better with Kite from Hunter x Hunter. So what Rengoku represents, and actually Kite's a good example as well, is a character who was introduced either early on or like suddenly, and his screen time is somewhat limited, and then he is killed within a short time span. Kite being another example of that. A character who is introduced, doesn't get a lot of screen time, and then is killed relatively quick in the arc he's introduced to, right? That's where Rengoku and Kite represent. There's another character who's like that too, right? And usually when this happens, These characters are considered catalysts for major changes in the characters or the world or something. Rengoku's death, if I'm being objective here, is probably doesn't even do any of that shit. The only character I think that death is meant to properly affect, it's probably Tanjiro. It doesn't affect the world whatsoever. It's like a setup, and I guess it's technically a setup for a fight later on between Asaka and Tanjiro. But Rengoku's whole thing is, I'm going to introduce him in the beginning as an inconsequential character. Then he gets introduced properly in an arc that's around him and the main cast of characters. And then at the end of that arc, he sacrifices himself to save the others, right? Now, I feel like this is... Now, I don't have a problem in the method and how he was killed, right? Do the thing where you introduce a character who's strong and shows how strong he is, and then have him get beaten or killed by an enemy that is absurdly strong. And you're like, what the fuck? Even some of the strongest guys are getting dog walked by these characters, right? Now, in a way, you can make the argument that Rengoku's death showed Tanjiro and Inosuke and Zenitsu, these fuckers aren't, these upper moons aren't nothing to be played with, which is why he's able to help Usui during the fight against, Upper Six? The siblings, right? Gitaro and, what's the bitch's name? I forget the girl's name, the sister's name, but the point is, Daki? I think it's Daki. And you would think it has some level of weight there. And then you have some conversation with, I think there's a little bit of a conversation with Tanjiro and Rengoku's brother and his dad. And only a little bit comes out of that. Like, it's okay, but it's not as much as you would have preferred. This is also why I make the argument that Demon Slayer, ironically enough, I still say is rushed. I think it's mediocre as fuck, but I think it's also rushed. Because there are certain sequences that I think that would have worked better. They also have Rengoku go through a character change where he's co-signing the death of Tanjiro's sister to, like, then all of a sudden co-signing that he and his sister are great and that his sister might be a different type of demon, da-da-da-da, right? She's special, da-da-da-da, right. And then he dies. And then the movie gassed the hell out of his fight. The scene where Goku's brother finds out he's passed. Yeah. That, like, he has some good stuff, but Rengoku's death doesn't really hit as well as it could have. Particularly because it doesn't have that much weight in the main series. It's overly gassed in the movie to make it seem like Rengoku and Asaka's fight was on some god tier level shit. Not saying it wasn't a good fight, but it definitely wasn't as gassed as the anime gasses the shit out of that fight, right? And it doesn't have that much impact. Like, they try to make this claim it impacts specifically Tanjiro, and it does. I think Tanjiro's the most affected by Rengoku's death, but that only really carries over for like an arc, if that. So I'm going to compare him to a character who I think had a vastly more impactful death with around the same kind of level of screen time. I would argue this character has more, but he still doesn't live that long into the series. And it's another popular character that if you watch anime for a decent amount of time, you already know this death. And that is Lieutenant Hughes, May Hughes from Fullmetal Alchemist or Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Now, to be fair, if you watch the original FMA, Hughes is in that series longer than he actually is in Brotherhood. But I'm using his Brotherhood appearance and the point in his plot, which is that Hughes isn't even that important in the main story for how do I say this? Hughes isn't important in terms of shit that ends up going down. He ends up becoming more important as the show goes on. About that, Hughes made discoveries and realizations that took other characters another 20 or so episodes to figure out. And the unfortunate problem is that he was the only person that knew, and he was caught in a shitty situation, and the enemy became way too aware of him being aware, way too fucking early. So there was no way to protect him. So by the time like Ed and Al and fucking Roy Mustang and them all became aware of it, it was too late. Although they did come to the realization that like, oh shit, but they're the same in the sense that like realistically in the grand scheme of their plots, Hughes and Rengoku don't last that long. Hughes I think dies in Brotherhood, I believe, like before like within the first 13 episodes, right? Hold on. Hughes' death. FMA Brotherhood. I forget. I think it's like episode 13. Let me see. Ironically enough, he died when he was 29. This man died before even hitting his 30s. I'm trying to see in the... Not the death. I need the death. Give me the death. When does he die? I don't remember the episode in which he dies. Let me see. Because he dies pretty late in the original series. He dies like halfway through the series in the original. He dies at like episode. He does like half. Where the hell does he die in Brotherhood? Let me see. Yeah, he dies in episode 25 in the main series. But yeah, he dies in episode 10. He doesn't even in that series is 64 episodes, and he's only in the first 10 episodes. Like Hughes dies absurdly quick in the original. The Monkeys had Hughes' number literally. If only cell phones exist in the FMA universe. He died in Brotherhood in episode. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You're talking about FMA, so we're not going to talk about her. Hey, what do you mean her? Oh, no, we're not talking about her. No. Nina's... Ooh, I guess, honestly, Nina's probably even better example. But those both are better examples of what Rengoku's supposed to be. A death that impacts the characters. Hughes' death is what triggers the mystery around his death that then leads into characters finding shit out. Because you killed a character who was important to more important characters. You killed Hughes, who was like Roy's best friend. And Roy was that man. Roy was that dude. So when you fuck with someone that close to Roy, you have now opened yourself up. I think killing him made it worse. The fact that you killed this man, they killed him so early, if anything, made them even more suspicious, which then led to them getting found out. That, oh, this is why Hughes died. Hughes died because these motherfuckers because he found out something he wasn't supposed to find out way, way too early. And unfortunately, like I said, he was in a position where he was the only one who knew, and they found out that he knew way too quickly. Whereas the advantage of some of the other characters is, even when they found it out in a way that either they were still protected or they found out in a way that like the other characters didn't know they found out. And I think Ed and Al, they found out that they knew shit earlier, but like Roy was able to like skulk around it for a bit. And that to me was a huge effect on the series. Nina's death is something that affected Ed and Al immensely, right? Nina's death affected Ed and Al. It also affected Scar, although it definitely affected Ed and Al the most. And those were deaths that led into character development, that stuck with characters. Like, they were bringing up Nina. I want to put this in context. Ed was referencing Nina all the way up until the end of the series when he gives up his alchemy. He's like, all I've ever been was human. I wasn't even strong enough to save one little girl. Like that, Nina stuck with him and will always stick with Ed. And like for the rest of Ed's life, Nina will stick with him, right? Rengoku does not have that effect, nor do we get. And see, what would have been cool is if they had shown like correlations with characters that Rengoku had interacted with and helped along his journey, which validated the life that he led and like carry throughout the Demon Slayer universe. But that's not what fucking happens, right? His death happens. There's some talk and conversation about it for like a decent amount of time, probably until the end of the next arc. By the time we finish Entertainment District, Rengoku is barely brought up in any way, shape, or form. Actually, at all. Which I think is a travesty, because you could have made him and his death way more impactful. I think the reason why Rengoku's death is viewed so highly is because you put a bunch of gassed up animation behind it. Remember, Nina and Hughes both died in really shitty ways. Hughes was killed in a fucking phone booth, for God's sakes. This man was killed in a phone booth in the middle of the night where no one was around him. Didn't even find out. People didn't even find out this man was dead until like hours after he had died, right? Rengoku was immediately like, oh shit, we all know he's dead. But like with Hughes, the public didn't know that man had died for hours. Like literal hours. And then Nina is a character that isn't even important to barely anybody in the series except for like Ed and Al and I guess the Scar to some degree. And even then, that shit was like a very sad and disturbing death. She'd already been transmogrified by her shitty fucking father and then like essentially crucified by some man she never met. She got fused with her dog, was some sort of abomination and barely mangled together, and then was essentially killed and exploded upon. Imagine getting your body morphed and twisted by someone who is your father, someone you care and love about, and then essentially stopping your new friends from hurting that man, only to then wander out and get murdered randomly. It's crazy. Nina's death is a wild death, bro. Nina's death is a wild death. Which is why when I look at Rengoku's death, I'm sitting over here like, bruh, like, it's kind of sad. And Studio, you are right. The animation is very much important, right? There's a fucking, I mean, we could talk about the death of Madoka Magica, but that's a whole bag of worms I'm not willing to go into right now, because Madoka Magica's deaths are a lot. Hell, Fate Zero's deaths are a lot, right? But the animation is important, I think, because his is tied to a fight. It's gassed more because of that. But if we're talking about impact and value, oh, absolutely. FMA, Hughes and Nina both have that. Hell, even you can even bring up technically Winry's parents to a lesser degree. But that's a flashback death, so I don't really count that as much. Sasha's death still hurts me to this day. And Hughes was killed by a homunculus who took the form of his wife. Yeah, that's a bunch of like sad shit with his. He let his guard down because he was like, wait a minute, what the fuck is my wife? Oh, like, and the vibe I get is that he knew it wasn't his wife, but he literally didn't have to. The funny thing is that Envy didn't even have to do it. Like, realistically, there's nothing Hughes realistically could have done to Envy to stop Envy from killing him. So taking the form of his wife is wild to me. Because I'm like, bro, that's crazy to me, right? Well, even, I mean, you could say, Navy, you could say something about Kuwabara's like fake death in the Dark Tournament, where he fakes his death. Like, man, so writing a good death will impact you for years. Hell, even, I mean, for God's sakes, one of the most iconic deaths is Kamina's. Kamina does that death where you don't even know this man is dead until like the end of the episode. You're like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, dog. Some of those deaths, you're just like, and that, to me, that's an importance of a high quality or well-written death. And obviously I have Jiraiya's on here. Jiraiya's is a death that I think has objectively, for me, gotten better as I've written it. Especially his, like, monologue while he's, like, in the process of dying. which is that Jiraiya goes through this whole monologue about how he really never accomplished anything in life. In a lot of ways, he's a failed version of Naruto. He never saved his best friend. He never got the girl. He never got a girl, period, let alone the girl he wanted. He couldn't save anyone. He couldn't even protect his village, right? And then he ended up accidentally raising a future enemy of the village he comes from, right? Jiraiya, in a lot of ways, is a fucking failure. And I think in that his final moments, it really stung. Even when he found out the truth about pain and he figured out the trick, he couldn't even stay alive or get out of the situation to like tell anybody, right? In a lot of ways, Jiraiya is a straight out failure, right? Yeah, the irony is that Jiraiya looked at his life as a failure overall. Ironically enough, his biggest accomplishment is like one of the best accomplishments in the ninja world. Because you're the guy who trained the fourth Hokage. You're the guy who trained Naruto. Yeah, you trained Pain, and Pain was a dickhead and caused a lot of problems. But yeah, he also died alone. But you also raised the fourth and the not fifth, the seventh. No, seventh is Kakashi. No, wait. No. Fifth Hokage is Tsunade. If you count Danzo, which I think you don't, I think Naruto officially is the seventh Hokage, I believe. Yeah, officially he's the seventh. Because they don't count Danzo. You raised the fucking Hokage. You raised the man who was able to stop your previous apprentice. Jiraiya's death hits me because he's inspired by the boy he trained. He like his student was his inspiration to not give up, and in him not giving up, it led to the defeat of the Pains. Because Pain, like if we're being objective here, Pain is one of the hardest motherfuckers to fight when you don't know how Pain's ability works. Pain's ability is absolutely stupid. Half of what makes Pain so difficult is that you don't know how his shit works. That, there's 7 bodies, but they're really all dead conduits. And realistically, the whole goal is to really find his main body or to just disable his other bodies, which you can do by removing the pins and this, that, and the third. The Rinnegan, without knowing how the Rinnegan works, is ridiculous. I have to even give Jiraiya credit because you have to be fucking ridiculously good to even get as far as Jiraiya got. Jiraiya took down, I'm trying to think, he took down what? He took down like 4 to 6 of them. He killed like the majority of them, actually. And that was for someone who didn't have as much of like high damaging moves. Like this man was killing, and the other, but like I said, like Pain is a cracked out villain. When you don't know how to fight him, he's absolutely cracked. Naruto's Japanese voice actress was in her bag when she found out Jiraiya passed. You could barely hear the anger. You could literally hear the anger building in her voice. Yeah. But that was a death. Jiraiya's death is one of those deaths that I think done in like a present time death was absolutely cracked. For a character who had been around as long as Jiraiya has, you knew a lot about his history. He had a lot of moments to shine. Like you got to see Jiraiya in a variety of different ways. So when he died, it bothered the fuck out of everybody. And his death lingered. It wasn't like one of those, we only kind of remember it. It lingered. Like Naruto got depressed. He literally could not function because he had lost Jiraiya. Even though there was shit to do and dreams to accomplish, that was like one of his only family members that he lost. And he literally was like, I'm about to dog walk the shit out of you. That's part of the reason why Naruto versus Pain is such a good fight and such a hard fight. To me, it's arguably my favorite fight in Shippuden. Is because of all the emotion and weight behind it. Jiraiya's death enhances that whole arc immensely. And that's quality writing. And then you give me things like Akame Ga Kill, which I personally believe is one of the worst examples in anime and manga history of what you don't do with character deaths. So I recognize that there are shows where their plots take places in worlds they're absolutely disturbing and distraught and this, that, and the third. And Akame Ga Kill has a bunch of other issues. I think the other issue it has is its terrible balancing of like rom-com, ecchi, harem bullshit with like straight out murder, violence, and gore. God, it's so bad. It's so bad at balancing that. But I think one of the worst things it does is its shitty attempt at stakes. When you realize that Akame Ga Kill's main way of maintaining its relevancy is through the consistent, I'm not even talking about just murder, I'm talking about the consistent murdering of characters who follow a cardinal sin that I absolutely hate. My Hero does this shit too, where you introduce and kill a character in the same goddamn arc. That is the laziest writing I've ever seen. It's like the character has to, you know what it reminds me of? And the reason why I don't like it as much, I don't like it at all, it's what you would do for a movie. It's actually, I think the My Hero movies do that, where they introduce a villain and then the villain dies at the end of the film. Now I get that because that's not canon. So we can't have these characters still existing in the films. Like they can't exist outside of the films. Although My Hero does this goofy shit and like brings in characters from the films, which, One Piece technically does that shit too, so I can't even, it's not even like a My Hero specific problem. But my biggest thing using Akame Ga Kill as the example, Akame Ga Kill, oh God, Orion, don't bring that shit up. It's going to be the most beautiful looking episode we ever see, and it's going to be the dumbest reaction right afterwards. Did you just give me a skirmish that looked like God and then not pay attention to it afterwards? Yep. Yeah. Because it's just a damn skirmish. But Akame Ga Kill's biggest problem is this weird, shouldn't be an example for anything. Well, it's an example for what not to do. Akame Ga Kill also has an idea that I think would have been better written in a better show, but it comes off goofy here, which is that having the main antagonist, S-Death, be the fucking like romantic love interest for the main character, and they do the gimmick of like them not realize, well, she not knowing that he's a part of the group that she's been fighting against, which is really weird because they keep up this goofy thing of like them having this weird like kind of romance while she's actively out here killing characters. Dog, it is the goofy, it's like, it reminds me of a variation of like the Boa Hancock Luffy romance kind of, where Boa Hancock is a fucking menace to everybody else except for the main character. It's that. My problem here is Akame Ga Kill doesn't understand you can't be a weird ecchi with harem vibes and fan service and then have moments where characters' heads are cut off and put on sticks as a warning. Ooh, what was that girl's name? Chelsea, I think? The girl with the damn, I think she had like earbuds and shit. They had this woman flat out murdered. I think she dies on like a bunch of like flowers or some shit, like in a flower field. In the arc she was introduced in, mind you, it almost feels like I was watching a special or a movie that it fucked with the status quo, so she couldn't live after the status quo. Introduce this character, throw her backstory, give you the full 9 yards with her, right? Then you murder her at the end of the arc, and her head is on a pike as an example of don't fuck with the government, essentially. And you're kind of just like, why did you do that? Yeah, like that, and that's the problem. And actually that's the core issue with it. The problem when you murder characters that quickly, and it's the reason why I don't like it, is that I don't feel anything when they die. When you make death that much of a normal occurrence in your series, the problem is that they wanted you to get attached to these characters. And I think that's the difference. Like, look, because let's be real here. Shows like Berserk and Villain Saga are murdering characters too. It's not like Tokyo Ghoul. Motherfuckers are just getting killed on the daily, right? But the difference is they're not out here trying to make you feel emotionally attached to every single one of these characters. They know Some of these are just meant to be fodder to show how dangerous and violent another character is. That's the point of those deaths. It's more of like showing off the power of the character who kills them, right? In fucking Akame Ga Kill wants to have the emotional attachment of a better show, but like the murder and violence and gore of a sinning. And I'm just like, but you got titties in the background. What are you doing? Like, like, I think the first episode is like the weirdest juxtaposition for me. It's they come to a new town, starting their adventure, only to find out that like these characters are fucked, and this rich girl captured and tortured and killed his friends. But here's this big boob anime cat girl, part of this legendary group known as Night Raid. And he's like, listen, you can choose what to do with this bitch who killed your friends. And he flat out murders her. And there's no moralistic conversation at all. He just murders a woman in cold blood. And then whoops, he falls into her cleavage. And I'm like, I think you're lighthearted and you're not. You can't just have a dude, you can't have a girl out here torturing two other people and then have him murder and retaliate and still want to do the kooky, oh, I fell in your cleavage. What? How could this have happened? Hi, I'm a fucking murdering woman known as Night Raid, but I wear a tank top with big ass titties and have cat ears and cat claws. Like, that show is like the biggest example of a tonal shift that just drives me nuts. I know Overlord does it too, but Overlord at least balances it out. The first episode of Overlord isn't that jarring, that it goes from extremely lighthearted to extremely dark. It's fine that these shows have both of these moments, but you can't have them in the same proximity that fucking Akame Ga Kill has them literally back to back. Like the scene, if I remember the scene that plays out, he's Night Raid's attacking the mansion. The boy's running out trying to find the girl of the mansion. He finds her. She's out in this back shed or some shit. And they're like, oh, I've been torturing and murdering your friends and shit, right? Yeah, well, studio, that might be for the manga. For the anime, it's dog shit. And even then, I still don't think that makes it well written. I get why it was written that way, but it was lazy to me. Because it's still that whole, let's introduce them into a new arc. Like 10, 15 episodes later, these characters are dead. Like, you know what? I can even, and I hate the rag specifically on Akame Ga Kill, but it annoyed the shit out of me, dog. It's such shitty writing. I absolutely can't stand it. Give me the arc. I want Akame Ga Kill's arcs. How long did each of these arcs last? Because you lost a character in every fucking arc. And it just disillusioned me. My problem is it's the same pattern that One Piece creates, but in reverse. One Piece never kills characters, so I don't take murderous situations seriously because you always are out here killing characters and shit. I mean, you're always out here not killing characters. So why do I care about damn, they don't now have like a story arc list? What is going on, bro? No, they don't. They always do this goofy shit. But in Akame Ga Kill is the opposite. They always kill a character in an arc. Characters are they'll even do that goofy shit where they introduce a character, then kill them in the arc they were introduced, and then they're wondering why I don't give a shit. You wanna know why I don't give a shit? Do you want to know why I don't give a shit? Because you always kill them. So when they die, I don't care. I don't care, bro. They don't know how much I don't care because you killed someone in every arc. Oh no. So really the question is who's going to die, not like that's really what it is. By the end of the series, I want to put this in context. The only characters who survive are pretty much the main ones you introduced. Like all these fucking... Like all these other characters are dead. It's so goofy. It's such shitty writing to me. You know how hard it is to convince me? Hold on, let me see. It's for shock value. Akame Ga Kill wanted to be both a high school DxD and Attack on Titan at the same time. Overlord wants to speak to you. Akame Ga Kill was monthly. Just watch an episode once a month. The blonde Karen who messed up Takumi's friends, right? Yeah. People had to die. They were at war. My issue isn't the death. My issue is the way it was written. It was just written poorly, in my opinion. It's funny that Xenoblade Chronicles 2 did this aspect a lot better than a bunch of anime. Agreed. I guess it boils down to the nature of the anime world that the setting takes place. In Attack on Titan, Demon Slayer, and Bleach have literal monsters in tons of danger. It makes sense. We need a hentai hijinks, Terrell. We needed the hentai hijinks. The only death that was dumb to me was the big titty hair girl. She literally didn't have to die. The girl I was talking about in the first episode. Yeah, I'm looking now because realistically I didn't read all the way through before. It looks like she just bleeds out. That's hilarious. It's hilarious. It's such a casual murder. Like, bitch, you didn't even have to kill this. You kill this bitch. You kill this bitch. That's wild to me. That's wild. Like, I'm gonna use Chelsea. Chelsea's the one character I was talking about. Let me see. Chelsea is introduced in the manga in chapter 21, right? When is she killed? She is killed. I think she's only. Is it Kill the Jaegers? She's killed in like an arc, I think. It's just one fucking arc. It's hilarious to me, dog. I wish they had showed the specifics of her death, though. They just show. It's lazy writing, dog. You're not gonna convince me of that. It's so jarring to have goofy monsters and extreme rapid deaths. Remember when Gabby shot Sasha right after that flashback to her finally eating her weight in meat? But they gave more context to her character at Navy. She grew up in the boonies and poor. Food was scarce. Hold on. I mean, even the fucking Attack on Titan, fine. Attack on Titan had that level of threat and danger. Demon Slayer wasn't even. I want to put it in context. Even Demon Slayer wasn't killing characters that casually. Hell, neither was Bleach. Attack on Titan, sure. There was plenty of fodder death in Attack on Titan. Like, motherfuckers in Attack on Titan were just dying, right? Made sense, because you're sending literal children in a lot of cases to fight giant titans. Like, that was... I don't have an issue with, the amount of death in Attack on Titan. But Demon Slayer and Bleach weren't even murdering characters like that. Demon Slayer kind of... with the fodder, but it wasn't, even that doesn't feel as bad. My issue was main characters, but I don't want to dwell on Akame Ga Kill too much, because that series literally pisses me off every time I talk about it. And the funny thing is it ironically enough suffers the same fate that Sekirei suffered, where the anime chose a completely different direction in the latter half of it, and ended up spoiling a death that hadn't came in the manga yet. Like, he killed a character earlier than when they die in the manga, only for them to die. I think it was hilarious. They died in the manga around a month after the anime aired. It was fucking hilarious. Sekirei did the same thing, and I hated it there too. That's besides the point. It just makes me mad. My hero, Night Eye, and a character that you guys haven't met yet. I'm not gonna talk about. Orion knows, and if you've read the manga for My Hero, you know that in season 7, I think one of the worst examples happens. A character is introduced and is dead in the course of what is it? In the manga, I think it was 3 chapters. In the anime, it's probably gonna be an episode, if that. Hell, it might not even be like a full episode. No, it probably will just because the animation is gonna look like God. The reason why I think My Hero's example is one of the worst examples in history. Akame Ga Kill, I think, as a show, is a terrible example. But this one example from My Hero is absolutely mind-boggling. It literally angers the shit out of me. My Hero said, let me introduce a very, very, very important character. This bitch has a good amount of importance and relevance in the story. And then let's not give a flying fuck about her. Ever. 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 The fight shows no consequence. Like, at all. It's literally a waste of time. I think it has become irrelevant in a very vague way, kind of, sorta. I thought Night Eye was bad. Nah. Yeah. Night Eye to me for a while was one of the worst, was like the biggest offense for me for My Hero. And My Hero, Night Eye's death is stupid because the whole point of the arc is to prove that the future isn't set in stone, only for the character who saw their own death to still die. And you're just like, well, that was fucking stupid, okay? It's so dumb. But then proceeds to have a future sight vision about another character, and you're just like, okay, this is just kind of fucking dumb now. You've essentially, like, if the whole point is to not believe in your false futures, in futures that can't, like, the future can be overwritten. Like, just because you see it doesn't make it true, right? That's the whole point. Only for a character's death to still come true, which means he's still technically right, but like just not, like, it's not 100% now. It's like 98 or 90% or some shit. And they're just like, that's fucking dumb. So dumb. But I thought Night Eye was bad. Oh, no. Oh, Segura's good shit, though. I think Segura doesn't get a lot of love because it's a harem, but I think as far as harems go, I think Segura's pretty good. I enjoy the shit out of Segura. I still have all the volumes. And I have the anime that no one can buy. Woo! Which reminds me, I need to buy some One Piece and some 100 Girlfriend manga. Can't wait for that next season to come out and ruin my fucking life. That's a whole other issue. What else? But when it comes to death writing, my two cardinal sins is don't make me numb to death. If I become numb to your characters dying, then I have no interest in your series. See, the thing with One Piece may have a problem. Black Clover may have a problem about not killing characters, but I still like those characters and I'm still invested in those characters. I don't even have that when you do the Akame Ga Kill route of just killing them consistently. When you keep killing characters so consistently, even the ones that are killed in the arc they're introduced in, I slowly but surely become less and less and less engaged with new characters. And fucking Akame Ga Kill did that twice. Introduced like 2 new characters and killed them in their introduction arcs. And I'm just like, well, now I really don't give a shit. Like, and I know, you know why they were the new characters that died and not any of the old characters? Because people fuck with the old characters. So you couldn't get away with killing certain characters, right? But man, any new character that was introduced, them motherfuckers did not last. It's like, oh, here's a new character. I almost felt like there was a popularity poll every time a new character was introduced. Like, all right, popularity poll. Do you like her? Well, she's only been around for 3 chapters. I don't care. Do you like her? I mean, she's kind of low on the bottom right now, but that could change it. Dead. Okay, you didn't give me a chance to grow. You didn't even want to experiment with her and try to make her better. Nah, fuck that. Dead. Jujutsu Kaisen is okay. So Jujutsu Kaisen is a weird position because I think Jujutsu Kaisen's I think the ghetto reveal in Shibuya arc is probably one of the cooler deaths where a character is dead, but the body being used led to more interesting plot revelations, right? The fact that Gojo knew something was off with Geto and also knew that Geto was dead but his body's walking around causing problems. And then you get the reveal that it's Keijaku, I believe. When you get the reveal it's Keijaku, and it's like, ooh, but it's that realization that gets Gojo trapped for the rest of the arc. And you're like, ooh, that is a good use of characters and death, right? Even though, ironically enough, his death is only shown in the movie. Technically, Yuta is the one that leads him to his death. Technically, Gojo, I believe, is the one who kills him. But Yuta's the one that puts him in the position to be killed. Which is what makes it kind of funny that, like, Geto is considered the main villain of Jujutsu Kaisen, when realistically this motherfucker was dead before the second season hit. Like, actually, he was probably dead. Actually, he was dead before the series started. That's what kind of cracked it. Geto was dead before the series started because he died. But he's considered the main villain, but he's not really. Keijaku is the main villain. And then you got, I guess, Sukuna as, like, another villain. The Shibuya arc is what changes things. The Shibuya arc gets kind of dangerous with how it handles certain deaths, right? I think the ones that are the most prevalent would be what? Nanami and I guess, was it Kujisaki, I believe? I think Nanami... It should have killed that Krusty Curse. Oh, yeah. Nanami lasted long enough for people to care. And he was also considered a mentor figure. Mentor figures dying isn't really a crazy thing. Having him go out the way that he did, knowing Nanami's character, fine. I'm perfectly fine with. It's about the right... If you're going to kill a character kind of early, that's kind of early and that's fine enough. He's given enough time. Nanami was given enough time to be like, ooh, right? Certain characters were killed for the betterment of other characters. Some characters were killed because of plot. Some characters' deaths were a reveal. The only one I think that is a little bad, not bad, just not great, is Mekamaru's. Because they do this thing where they reveal the man's a traitor, have him get into a fight immediately after revealing his traitorness, and then him still being kind of relevant in the beginning of Shibuya, being like it's such a weird string of... I think Mekamaru's like death is almost like an afterthought, because unfortunately Mahito, and that's kind of the issue with certain villains. When you realize certain villains are kind of lined up for other characters, you know any other skirmish that happens with those villains doesn't fucking matter. Like, you're not killing that character. That's like Blackbeard and Law going at it. You knew this couldn't end well for this Law, because Blackbeard's main villain is the main villain of the series. So, spoiler, it's gonna be Luffy or someone of higher importance fighting Blackbeard. So when you see Law fighting Blackbeard, you're like, well, this Law's about to get dog walked. You low-key already know that's about to happen. It's the same thing with Mahito and Mekamaru. We're at the beginning of the next arc and you're telling me they're going to kill Mahito this early? Nah. Because we both know Mahito is for Itadori. That is it. Jujutsu Kaisen's worst crime isn't K-wording characters. It's putting women in refrigerators. Okay, so here's my thing with Jujutsu Kaisen's problem. It doesn't even have anything to do with murder. Well, it kind of does, but it kind of does. Jujutsu Kaisen's problem is it's done that thing that I think Bleach had a problem with. If anyone remembers watching Bleach, right? You finished Soul Society, you went into Weko Muno and the Iranka arc, right? In the fake Katakura town. And you realize at a certain point that maybe Aizen is a little busted. Bleach's problem for a while is you gave me a villain who was so absurdly busted. He was out here inconveniencing whole squad captains. And you were like, yo, this is getting kind of ridiculous. Why is this man out here embarrassing whole captains? Not even one, multiple captains or people on captain level. And you're like, okay, This is getting kind of stupid. How is Ichigo supposed to fight this man, right? How is anybody supposed to beat this man? And it became this insanely ridiculous power creep, and you were like, okay, this is getting kind of fucking unfair and stupid. Can we chill out? Can we put some rules here? And then you got to his fight with Ichigo at the end, where I think, ironically enough, I actually like his final speech when he's getting sealed. That's the other thing. You couldn't even kill Aizen. That was the kicker. Aizen's defeat is sealing him. You weakened him enough for the seal to work. That shit is wild to me. But that's Jujutsu Kaisen's problem currently. Power creep is a motherfucker. You got a character who is so broken and goofy that even through multiple back-to-back fights, some of which are with the strongest characters in the fucking verse/series, and this motherfucker still isn't dead. He's being just inconvenienced casually. And you're just like, bro, it's kind of hard for me to take these fights seriously. Like even the chapter that just came out today, he did it again. Here's another character. Da, 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 da. He has his ability. He can do this with his domain. Da, 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 da. All right, next character he's gonna be fighting. Wait a minute. Like, he's made me less engaged. They don't understand that engagement to me is important. So when you fucking do this thing where you just keep introducing characters and they keep fighting, but nothing fucking happened, it's crazy. Nobara. Oh yeah. I almost forgot about that. The Nobara thing. The Nobara thing is weird because the Nobara thing is also an example of like introducing a character. She was around enough and had enough moments with the crew for people to get an emotional reaction off of it. But it was kind of weirdly abrupt, but I get why. I also felt like Itadori was just being fucked with for a while. They just kept fucking with Itadori. It was kind of ridiculous. Like, guys, y'all need to chill out. What do you mean, man? What's the problem? Bro, you keep fucking with this main character like he ain't got nothing else to do. Like, this is stupid. Like, for a while, Itadori is just getting fucked with. He's also, like, weirdly irrelevant in parts of his own series. Like, a lot, actually. Kind of want to see Sukuna win. Honestly, not rooting for someone because besides Gojo, Yuta, and Maki, most of them are mid. Aizen soloing Ichigo, 4 captains and 2 visors, and Shinji. What about Gundam deaths? So, Matt, I can't talk about Gundam deaths because I haven't really watched Gundam at all. That's why I don't talk about Gundam deaths. Not because I don't like them. I just haven't seen Gundam to talk about it. It's like Vegeta, right? The main character almost needs to be the one to kill the important W's. Kind of wish that would change. Yeah, I think one of the coolest fights, and it happened in Black Clover, and if they ever adapt the rest of the Spade Kingdom arc, you'll get to see it, is you get to see a lower ranked character take out a relatively major threat character, and it's such a beautiful fucking fight. It's such a beautiful fight, it's impactful, and it correlates, and I love it. And if you've seen Black Clover and you've seen the Spade Kingdom arc in its entirety in the manga, you know which fight I'm talking about. There's only one fight that absolutely deserves the praise it gets. People would talk shit about it, but it's such a good fucking fight. Fuck them. But yeah, fucking good God Almighty. Jujutsu Kaisen needs to chill out because you made me so. I've become more distant. I don't know about the rest of you, but if you're up to date with Jujutsu Kaisen's manga, I've become so unengaged with the fight because I'm just like, we've been doing this like for a bit now. We're literally doing this like back to back fucking. Oh, we gotta fight. Oh, this person's gonna fight. Then this person's gonna fight. Then they're gonna use this combination, and this could possibly beat him. And then I can weaken him this way, and none of that shit works. And then they had the nerve to be in the background, and be like, well, you know, the main villain isn't really even trying yet. And you're like, what? What? The main villain isn't trying yet? Damn, can we just end the series at this point? Because I don't know what the fuck y'all are doing. They said the judgment sword was the key. That didn't happen. Exactly. I don't understand, bro. I don't understand. But I don't want to deviate too much from Jujutsu Kaisen. I'm just using those as examples. Like I said, my cardinal sin is don't kill a character as soon as they're introduced, and don't make a habit of doing the same kind of murder, which is my issue. Like I said, Akame Ga Kill is one of my cardinal sins. If you kill a character in the arc they're introduced in, they better, and Rengoku technically is a part of that problem. If you do that, Rengoku's a little bit different, but not that different. And if you're going to do that, their importance needs to be shown. So like Hughes dying early on in FMA led to plot and story and mystery and development. I love that shit, right? If you're going to get Jiraiya's death led to a whole character change and arc, and Jiraiya had a fuck ton of time and moments to justify his own greatness, right? Itadori isn't even touching Sukuna. Doesn't make sense how he's been able to handle. Doesn't even get on-screen training arcs. Granted, Gojo wasn't the best teacher. No, he wasn't. Gojo really didn't get a chance to do. Unfortunately, Jujutsu Kaisen is going to be another series, and this is going into a whole another conversation, but I'm going to quickly address it. Jujutsu Kaisen is going to be another series that suffers the same fate as Demon Slayer, as Black Clover, as My Hero. Like, it's going to go through that whole thing where I sit there and I look and I go, you know what you probably should have done? Made these series longer, because you don't get enough time to do certain things. Back in the day when we got Bleach and Naruto and One Piece, we got a bunch of cool shit. And even Naruto, as long as it is, could have easily been longer, right? But here's the fucking problem, and I understand it. The mangaka game is rough, and people are not built to live in those conditions. So guess what? At a certain point, if you don't get into this shit when you're younger, you were going to get dog walked. I think that's the reason why Tabata was struggling for a while. Tabata's older than I think Horikoshi, so his body was definitely not prepared to deal with all that shit. Shorter series means the stronger health for the mangaka for them to write other stories. The problem is they are physically required to do weekly chapters to maintain a sort of relevance in their perspective magazine, right? So it's always it's like realistically the shonen game is just rough. But I think almost every modern shonen that's come out could deserve being longer, with maybe a few exceptions. I think Promised Neverland was fine, and then it was long enough. I wasn't tripping on that one. But a lot of the other modern shonen jump series, I'm like, guys, I think Masho, is another one that I think is fine where it is. But some of these series absolutely deserve to be longer, but they can't be, because people can't take that kind of damage. Hell, I remember it's about early on being like, I want Black Clover to be as long as fucking One Piece. And you know why you can't do that? Because it takes a certain type of body and mind and strength to do as well to do a story like One Piece. Also, when Oda was writing One Piece, he wasn't married. He didn't have kids. That man was single. He was a single young man writing One Piece. Tabata is, I believe, married and has a child. Like, some people are like, fuck it, I want to write this story, but I also want to be there for my kids. So I'm not mad at it. It's just a sad reality of the game. But yeah, unfortunately, all of these shows are suffering from being shortened. My Hero is in the same boat. Jujutsu Kaisen fandom because twice as toxic as my MHA in half the runtime. Shorter anime make their characters feel like strangers because we don't get enough time with them. Agreed. To be honest, Naruto didn't need 15 years of runtime. Besides, I feel like the time skips are unnecessary. Also, I can't take the war arc seriously if it all happens during a course of a weekend. You're right, Kuro, in different ways. The time skip does happen too early, in my opinion. And they don't use it to set up the world. I think 15 years, I think he kind of mismanaged the 15 years. Because Shippuden happens too early, and a lot of Shippuden wasn't integrally great. You also took a while to introduce the Akatsuki. The only Akatsuki members we were officially revealed to was technically Itachi and Kisame, and I guess kind of Orochimaru when he was a part of the Akatsuki. My Oda started publishing. One Piece started publishing when he was 22. Black Clover started when he was 31. Yeah, exactly. Like Oda was like almost like college age technically. Tabata was like married with kids age, and so I get it. Technically, isn't Tabata like 40 now? Now I think about it, because Black Clover is going on what, 9 years. I know this is I believe Hirokoshi's 10th year, and Black Clover came out like the year after. So Black Clover has almost been around for a decade, and My Hero has just hit its decade, I believe. Like, so yeah, it's exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I thought. He turns 40 in July. Makes sense. Okay, yeah, exactly. He's been doing this for 9 years. But 31 is still relatively young. He's not an athlete. No, I know. I get it's not young, but like trying to do being a mangaka is hard work. This isn't like fucking fuck around shit. This is like, hey, we gotta write this shit out, and I gotta do these long nights and these rough days, and I have to do this on a weekly basis. Not even weekly. It's like almost a daily basis with very few breaks in time, right? And they both were trying to get serialized before. MAH started when Hirokoshin was 28. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, technically Hirokoshin wasn't that much younger than Tabata, but he was younger. And it also just has to do with general health and lifestyle habits. Some people just didn't have... Tabata may not have just had a good lifestyle, or he was more prone to getting sick. It kind of just depended. To be fair, he was a lot more... He didn't start getting kind of inconsistent with chapter length until, like, Spade, I think. Yeah, it was Spade Kingdom. Like, before Spade Kingdom, he was pretty consistent with chapter length and art and all that shit. We really didn't have any issues. It wasn't until, I think, Spade Kingdom, specifically probably the latter half of Spade Kingdom, where we started getting short chapters and he was taking breaks and all this other shit. Some of that shit just started catching up with you, man. I think realistically it's been catching up with Hirokoshin too. Like, let's not pretend like Hirokoshin has been working straight off with no problems. Hirokoshin, especially in this last arc, has been struggling. Kuro and Togashi both start. Yeah, see, if you started in your 20s, you probably had more time to adjust to that lifestyle. These fuckers starting in their late 20s, early 30s, that shit starts hitting you quick. That's how Bleach wasn't having crazy issues until later. Oh wow, Kishimoto started at 25. Yeah. So I feel like I've gotten away from the main topic, but yeah, like I just want to talk about it. Like this game is not a fucking easy game. Bro wanted Black Clover to be as light. Want to be as light, not gonna lie. Want to be as long as One Piece, but realized that Oda was built different. Actually, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Motherfucker thought, I can do what Oda does. No, you can't. Oda is a different kind of mangaka. And even then, Oda himself has had his issues. Oda now has to do like a chapter every other week. Like, people forget, Oda doesn't put out chapters weekly barely anymore. It's always like a crazy moment to get him to start putting out weekly chapters. Terrell, do you think One Piece handled Ace's death as best as they could? Also, which One Piece death hit hard for you? So I think Ace's death is handled well in terms of the impact and the importance of it and the ripple effect that it had. Ace himself as a character was handled well in terms of his importance to the main story. Ace himself is fucking stupid. Oda managed to do something that still confuses me to this day, bro. He managed to make a character that I don't incredibly love, and I think his death was his own fucking fault, but somehow made his death insanely impactful. His death literally changed the game, affected characters from a variety of levels, bro. Changed the world and the landscape. His death is a poignant part of One Piece history. Same thing with Whitebeard, obviously. But like, in the same breath of doing that, I don't care. Ace's character is like one of the least important parts of that death. Like, if you ever seen like people react to Ace's death, the first reaction you hear from a lot of people is, "Oh no, Luffy." You know why? Because that's the part that matters. Not Ace himself, but oh no, Luffy, not Luffy, because Luffy's the one who's suffering through that. But we're about to hit the hour and a half mark, so I'm gonna do this. For those who want to get into the chat and talk about some anime deaths that you feel are either good examples or bad examples of how to write a death, I will let you do that in the server. So if you are in the server, come on down and talk about your experiences or shows that you think need to be represented that I haven't properly represented, mainly because I haven't watched the shit or maybe I forgot to bring it up. Let's see. We're just talking about like anime deaths in general. Like how they're well written, how they're shitty written. Just kind of depends. So, I'm in the Discord. If you guys want to come in and speak your piece of various anime deaths that are well written or poorly written, and we just have a discussion about it, I'm 100% game. I'm in the server now, chilling. So have at thee, I guess. But yeah, I'm trying to think of another one. Oh, and then I guess the question also was which One Piece death hit me the hardest. I think Brooks is still one of my favorites. I don't think it's perfect, but I think it's one of my favorites personally. Hey Navy.
Ahoy.
Ahoy. I think a show that needs to be talked about death anime is Fairy Tail, and Naruto did it poorly written at times. It depends on which death you're talking about that isn't written well. How do you feel about Kamina's death? Kamina's death in Gurren Lagann is great. It's great because partially you don't even know what happened. Like when you watch it in retrospect, you're like, oh shit, he was dying in that moment. But some people missed it, and it doesn't become relevant until the episode ends, and you're like, oh shit, he's dead. Like I remember when I first watched that episode, I didn't know he died. I knew he was wounded, and I thought,
well, what show?
we're talking about Kamina.
Oh yeah,
That was a death. That was a death that was like, whoa, what do you mean he's dead? Like I thought it was like he was either severely wounded or he had just passed out. But in retrospect, if you go back and watch it, it's almost obvious once you realize it. But that,
Terrell, 1000%. I agree. Like when I went back and watched that episode, they were fighting that one guy in the robot, the rival, the dirty blonde hair guy who worked for the Spiral King.
yeah,
His name escapes me. Anyways, when Kami's doing that like final stand, they form Gurren Lagann. Like he's exhausting his life's spark. Like in the moment everybody's just hyping like, yeah, Kamina, we're gonna do this one more time. You're gonna walk out there. It's like, oh no, all that hype and all that buildup, like you think he's walking away from it, but it ends. It's like, no, Kamina exhausted all of himself to make sure his friends got out.
I'm not gonna lie. I was in denial until about 7 minutes into the next episode.
yeah.
Same.
That's a fair reaction. That's actually the Kamina's death is so good. It literally changes the landscape of the show. Like literally, you get a new main character and have to go through a whole arc. It literally changes the game, which makes it probably one of my favorite. It makes Gurren Lagann literally part of what makes Gurren Lagann so great is that it's not the only thing. I think it's also one of the few mech anime that hits harder than a lot of shonen do, and I'm just like, you're only how many episodes? 26, dog. Let me. We might.
There's also the huge tonal shift that Kamina's death causes because the team Gurren Lagann, they're all like, Simon's obviously distraught because his brother's dead. Yogo liked him, and the rest of the crew were like, that's their bro, that's their leader. So it's like him, he was so integral to them and their group, that all of them were like directionless once he was dead. They were scrambling to keep each other like together.
Yeah, exactly. Like I said, that is an example of a death that literally changes the landscape of the entire show. It's probably one of the better examples, if not one of the top examples of a death that absolutely carries its weight. Now, I think earlier Kite's death is brought up, which I that for Hunter x Hunter in the Chimera Ant arc. So here's the thing with Kite's death. It kind of hinges on how you read Hunter x Hunter. From what I heard in the manga, he's introduced early on, so it makes a little bit more sense. In the anime, he's not. Well, let me first say, in the 2011 anime, he's not. I don't even think the 99 anime got to Chimera Ant arc, from my understanding. But
they got to the very end of Greed Island.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So when we get Chimera Ant arc in the 2011 series, I'm gonna be real with you. Kai's death to me only serves one purpose, which is the dangerousness of the Chimera Ant arc, the Chimera Ants in general. The problem is that one of the things I don't like about that arc is Gon's like overly insane approach to it. Like Gon is like the least likable character in that arc, and I think that's intentional. To be fair, I'm not acting like Togashi wasn't trying to. The problem with Shonen is that Shonen makes you kind of forget these characters are children, and I would say the Command arc is a good example of. I forgot Gon was 10 until this arc, and I'm like, oh, that's right, he's 10. But I'm also like, you're throwing a fucking tantrum, and it annoys the shit out of me.
Well, looking back on Hunter x Hunter, so I went and gave it a rewatch, and I zoned back. Kite's death is kind of like what happened with Rengoku in that we don't get to know them, we don't get to sit with them for a long time. And much like how Rengoku's death was like to highlight how dangerous the upper moons are, similar to what you said, the Chimera Ant's dangerous is highlighted by them taking out Kite, who was an experienced and professional what's the word they use in their hunter?
Yeah, he's a hunter.
Hunters. But in that, I went and gave the series a rewatch. It was really stunning to see, like, if you know the main villain of that arc, Meruem, right, the Chimera Ant King, he starts to become more humane, right? Like the opposition between him and Gon starts to become more like the ants, like more monstrous and more demanding and like brutal in his methods. And Meruem starts to become a lot more human when he cares about Kiyomi and his people and like his place in the world. So like it's very interesting to see the juxtaposition.
Of course, studio. Nah, I mean I always enjoy. Like I understand it on a writing level, but it's always funny to me that he essentially threw his main character under the bus to do it because to me Gon is like really unlikable, and then we have that arc that's around Killua, and I'm like, yeah, I'm about done with Gon as my main character for a while. Like I don't really need to deal with this man. And then and Togashi apparently agreed because he just stops being the main character for a while. Which
should Gon have been character? Because honestly, the God, I really don't like Gon. His whole thing was like he was gonna go out to find his dad, but Jing's kind of a deadbeat. That's the man's you.
I mean, yeah, but technically Gon didn't know that. Like, once again, he's 10. I can understand a 10-year-old wanting to find his father. Okay, my issue wasn't that.
No. Gon knew he was a deadbeat since episode 1. Like that was his whole motivation. He was like, my dad abandoned me to be a hunter. Like that must mean being a hunter must be amazing. I got to find out why he left. Like by experiencing it myself.
This is like the whole. Ironic enough, you know what it reminds me of is when Usopp's dad left to become a pirate. But like it seems way more mean spirited in here in Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah.
Like it seems almost intentionally mean spirited. Like fuck my child. I'm like, why did you even have kids, bro?
Here's the thing, though. Yasopp still cares about Usopp as we watch One Piece.
Yeah, but technically,
Hunter, it's not as pronounced.
Well, the problem is that Usopp doesn't know how much. Well, he only knows because Luffy knows because he was told stories about him. But like my issue with Gon is that Gon is like a stereotypical shonen character until Chimera Ant arc, where he becomes like this fucking baby, like this annoying ass violent baby that's currently carrying like a Glock that can destroy half a country or some shit. Like, he literally throws a tantrum and loses it all for a character that, to me, he didn't have enough of. I think that's my problem with it. My problem with it was always like this, like, you don't have enough of a connection to Kite to be this angry and this unrealistic. And it's also acknowledged that he's a shittier friend than Kahlua is. Like, it's funny that he helps Kahlua grow.
Kalua's a great friend.
No, I know, but I'm saying Gon's a shitty friend to Kahlua.
Oh, completely.
Definitely.
But the irony being is that Gon's the reason why Kahlua becomes a better person in general. That's what cracks me up. You were able to incite such a positive change in your friend, but you're actually just a shitty friend. It's. I almost feel like it's a deconstruction of the shonen main protagonist of being like this.
Yeah, it's highlighting all of Gon's flaws, all of Gon's mistakes.
The problem is there's no introspection for him. He literally is like, he has his tantrum. He almost dies. He's in a coma. He's revived, and he's just like, and then like, I'm gonna go see my dad, and Kalua's like, "You're welcome" would be nice, you fuck. Like,
it's a little too long to thank him or to like say sorry for all the things he put him through. Like,
well, I don't even. The problem is, I don't think we could. And still, you've read the manga, I haven't. But does Gon even talk to Kahlua after that whole situation? Like, because I don't remember him after the anime.
No, after they parted ways, they have since to contact each other.
They haven't talked. So they haven't talked since that arc.
No, the only person we've seen Gon talk to, surprisingly, is Jing.
Yeah, because he talks to his dad in the anime.
Yeah, I guess his dad gave him his phone number. He's like, call me whenever you want.
I mean, Terrell, I get what you're saying about like how Gon shouldn't have reacted that violently and that obsessively over Kite, who he just met. Like, he probably imprinted on Kite is what happened. Like, Kite was probably like, Gon probably had an idea of his mind of what he would want like a parent or like a cool uncle to be like, and then like Kite showed up and sort of filled that role for him. So when he lost Kite, he didn't know how to handle it because Jing was never in his life, and he never had that like strong male role model or figure. So losing Kite did something to Gon mentally. I guess you can also blame Jing for that because his lack of being around didn't do Gon any favors. So my man Gon has mental problems. So
well, no. I mean, that was kind of obvious. I mean, the whole I'm becoming a hunter to see why my dad abandoned me for it was already kind of a problem in its own right. So it's not like I'm not denying that. I just don't think it doesn't make for compelling content. I'll say that. Like, he just like Hunter x Hunter is a weird series to me. Like, I would say Yu Yu Hakusho is his traditional shonen. Hunter x Hunter is kind of like his abstract shonen, and in a way, some parts of it you kind of have to just acknowledge aren't going for the same beats as like it may. There might be a tournament, and we might have a teleporting to the game world kind of arc, but like these aren't going to play out the same way a traditional shonen would handle these things. That's why the Chimera Ant arc is considered so good, because it's such a different arc. By the time you hit the end of the Chimera Ant arc, you're kind of conflicted about who are the true monsters, which I think was the point. That's the point. That's the greatness of the arc. The arc manages to make you recontextualize and question things. That's the quality of a good arc. Gon, unfortunately, is a character who doesn't grow or change or any of that shit. This motherfucker just has a tantrum, fucking murders an ant, and fucks over who he thought was his best friend. Like, I
kind of almost wish there were a more lasting consequence to what Gon did. I know. I
mean, he doesn't have his nin anymore, so that's a thing.
I mean, I'm not far enough in the manga to know if he ever mitigated that or not, but that's just
he isn't. I think he hasn't been relevant. Like, literally, I think we've been following Kurapika and a little bit of Lorio.
That shit's never coming back.
Studio's just coping with a bad situation. He's just like, man, We ain't getting no more 100. I'm just tired, bro.
Yeah, we're never seeing Gon again. It's over.
I mean,
Hey,
I'm not really against that. It'd be kind of a crazy way to end that story, but technically, he did accomplish his goal.
oh, Terrell, I wanted to ask, um, were there any you mentioned earlier about Kuwabara's demise in the Dark Tournament arc of Yu Yu Hakusho? Were there any other Yu Yu Hakusho deaths that like stood out to you?
Genkai's,
Oh,
well, yeah, Genkai's. And probably I liked a lot of the stuff in Chapter Black, like a lot.
yeah.
Like, I recognize that like Dark Tournament is the fan favorite, but I think Chapter Black for me is a personal favorite. Like I just like that arc more. Um,
Same.
and that's an arc that works for me a lot. And then we don't talk about the other one. The other one exists.
Or the Four Kings.
Yeah,
S-
No, I think it's Three Kings.
Centuries
It's Three Kings.
Century's death was a notable one in my mind because he went through all those elaborate plans, all those machinations. He ruined so many people's lives for his end goal. He didn't even like reach it, really. And then he goes out to Yusuke, who's like not really himself, which is like it's layered. Like so much went against him to get to that point.
My problem. So here's my problem with putting like villain deaths will always be kind of weird to me because they're kind of built to from the beginning of an arc in a lot of ways. That's kind of why I like Merwin's demise a lot in Chimera. Like Chimera arc for a while was an arc I went back and forth on because I'm like the less I see of Gon, the more happy I am. Like everything else but the Gon stuff was like engaging for me. Merwin's demise as a villain was way more like interesting in the context that like his humanity had him die in such a human way. Granted,
He died in
I do
a
agree with
noble
essentially,
fashion.
huh?
He died in like a very noble fashion.
Yeah, like because he didn't actually have to die. He chose that. But like my thing with villain deaths is that you gotta be my two favorite things in villain deaths are irony and juxtaposition between them and the main character. Irony I just find fucking hilarious. A character who spends their whole life doing one thing is killed for the exact mistake they made in the first place. That shit will always be funny to me. But I like that because if you're a bad person, fuck you. Yeah, that's your hubris.
Oh, like Frieza, like Frieza from DBZ.
Well, Frieza, that's if Frieza stayed dead. I would have been fine with that. Frieza, unfortunately, that's the problem with the way, particularly it's Super. Super kind of screws that up a lot. Like, I didn't need Frieza. To me, Frieza should have stayed dead after the beginning of Cell, technically, at the beginning of the Android saga. Having him being killed by Vegeta's son, I think, is really poetic. Unfortunately, that's not what we got, and that's not what things are. Now we have Black Frieza and people having him in fucking do-rags and hoodies and all this other fuck shit. But that's neither here or there. The irony of Frieza's death being is that you spent your whole life looking down on Saiyans only to be killed by one. I fucking love that. Here's the problem. Doesn't fucking happen. This motherfucker's still alive. Again, actually. Technically it's again. It's not that he didn't die. They brought him alive again to inconvenience the plot. Because he's such a fucking fan favorite. I hate that shit. But that's going into another issue. But yeah, like characters actually one of my favorite deaths is probably Kira's. Kira's from JoJo Part 4. Kira's is hilarious.
Yeah.
Kira's is
Yoshikage.
hilarious. Yeah, Kira's is hilarious. He's killed in a combined effort, and the thing that kills him is a fucking ambulance truck, which is hilarious because he was trying, he needed help. He needs help only to be murdered by the thing that provides help. And then the kicker being is that he doesn't realize that he's died. We have to get a flashback of him getting killed for him like, oh shit, I'm dead. This motherfucker's out here playing loud ass music in the middle of the night. Fuck them. But yeah, Kira's death is fucking hilarious to me, bro. Like that
And
will
what makes it funny is it was so mundane. Like Kira spent the whole show trying to escape the JoJos and the stand user friends, and he's going around through Morio. He even adopts a new personality and identity to try and to just live out. His refusal to move from that town is what got him. Like he's like,
no,
oh,
his refusal to stop murdering people was what
that
got him.
too, that too, but
The
like,
irony of him being like, I just want a normal life where I'm not anybody special. But the thing that makes him abnormal is the thing he won't give up to have that life. Like you keep murdering people, therefore
someone's
you
gonna get you eventually.
you're constantly getting chased, and through being chased and your consistent obsession. Actually, that's what gets him caught by Hayato originally. That's what gets him in trouble with fucking Bites the Dust. That's what gets him caught by Josuke. If he would just leave shit alone, he would have been fine, and he couldn't do it. Because remember, when he switched faces, he was technically scot-free there. He wasn't screwed. He wasn't in trouble. He successfully gotten away from the JoJos. And then what did he do? He couldn't fight the urge to murder another woman. And the moment he murdered another woman, it led to him and Hayato having that run-in in the bathroom that was very uncomfortable to watch, which then led to him essentially killing Hayato, then having to do Bites the Dust to reverse his death, which gave Hayato a chance to break the loop to fucking get Josuke involved, which led to the fight that eventually got him killed. All because he couldn't let go of the one thing that was getting him in trouble. That irony is like and then the kicker is that the girl he murdered years ago led back to bite him in the ass. Because it was technically Rohan that got like absurdly close to figuring out who Kira was and what body. Like they were literally closing in on him anyway. So
Yeah, it's gonna happen.
so the girl who was friends with Rohan, who saved Rohan the night she was murdered, was the girl who got him killed and created that weird alleyway that got him pulled to hell. Like I love that irony when it comes to villain deaths. Villain deaths can be dissatisfying, but it's hard to think of one that bothered me in recent memory. Most villains go out. I mean, honestly, as long as you beat a villain's ass, usually I'm fine with that. Killing a
Like when it
villain,
gets, it's like when it gets personal, right? Like when in Bleach, right? When Ichigo's dad finally takes down Grand Fisher over what happened to their his wife.
yeah. I mean that one's more cathartic, which I appreciate, but like
Yeah,
that
because
one
it's
that's
personal.
yeah, it's like a revenge thing. It's kind of like what was the example I was gonna use? Even technically, I don't want to use. I'm not gonna use that one as the example. I was gonna use something else, but I don't want to do that as the example. Um, I'm trying to think of one in recent memory I really like the defeat of the villain or the death of the villain. I'm trying to go with the death of the villain specifically.
A villain who died.
I'm trying to go. Let me hold on. Let me think. I'm trying to think of a character who. It's harder because it's been a minute since I've looked through them. Jay Spinner, don't bring it up. We already brought Maze Hughes earlier. I think you missed all the Maze Hughes talk. That was early on, unfortunately. I'm
Greed's
sorry,
death
bro. I'm
hit me hard.
sorry. Huh?
Greed's death hit me real hard in Brotherhood.
Who?
Greed.
Gree's death is. Mm,
If it had happened earlier in the series, it wouldn't have had as much like he actually gets close to everybody and like he's finally become part of the group. So like seeing that happen was a shock because I didn't think it would happen.
I knew Gree was gonna. Uh, Alright, enough. I'm thinking of. I think I like Envy's death a lot too. Envy's death surprisingly is a good mixture of an ass whooping from Roy losing his shit, then a development moment of Roy fully getting over Hughes' death, to the irony that uh, the reason why Envy is the way that Envy is ironically enough his envy of humans and their ability to survive and persevere through terrible and painful situations. And that irony was so profound. Like the realization of his own weakness hit him so hard that instead of dealing with the problem and acknowledging it, he literally chose to run away through death. He killed himself as a way of running away from the shame of being called out and perfectly described slash pegged by fucking Edward Elric. Like that death was really fucking good. Just because it's a very like painful acknowledgement while him also being still bitch made even in his final moments. I'm trying to think of other shows though. Ukiura's as a character means like very little to me. I hate that Bleach did that thing where they tried to give Ichigo like multiple rivals, and the better one was Grimmjow, like 110%. Grimmjow is the better rival for Ichigo. Ukiura is a character I think they thought was cooler, and conceptually he probably was. In actual execution, Ukiura is kind of a whatever villain for me. Like, give me Grimmjow any day of the week. Grimmjow was a good villain and was an entertaining one that was also turned to ally later that we don't talk about because if you haven't read the manga for Bleach, that technically is a spoiler, so I apologize in advance. But I'm trying to think of another villain that sticks out to me character-wise because there's been a minute. There's been a minute since I've had a villain really carry a lot of weight to him or her. Hold on. There might be an easier way for me to do this.
Oh, Madara's death kind of was odd to me since seeing as it wasn't his first death. You know what I mean?
I don't even bring up Madara's death because Madara's death is not engaging to bring up. Madara's death is a part of a poorly handled plot. That's my issue with it.
Yoshimoto kind of wrote that.
With the whole Zetsu and Kaguya shit, I'm just like, nope.
Yeah, basically, the only way to Madara became so unstoppable that the only way to deal with him was to like have a betrayal happen and just have someone else sublimate him.
Hold on, I'm scrolling down because I don't remember. I hate some of these characters. I actually looked at the top 25 to see which characters they put in here, and some of these I fucking hate.
Yeah.
Because some of them actually cover. Oh my! Why is Muzan this high on the list? This is stupid. Muzan isn't.
I know why.
Muzan isn't even a good fucking villain at all. Actually,
he's horrible, but I think it's his horribleness that actually he's a terrible villain, and he's not that compared to other villains in anime. He's not special, but like I think it's like the extent to which his actions harmed and caused so much pain in the Demon Slayer world itself is what would get him up there. Because remember, he's the one who turned Nezuko into a demon. He's the reason why the Hashira have to fight the demons. He's the reason why the Master is, where he is. Like he spread misery. So he has his fingers in a lot of pies.
I'm actually checking right now. Let's see. There's a couple of these that are in here that I haven't watched the series for, so I can't talk about because I haven't seen the series. So it's hard for me to have a conversation about them. Damn, they put Aizen at number 2. Who's number 1 then? Ha ha ha. It's kind of funny. Yeah, some of these I just haven't. I haven't seen enough of to really talk about. Let me see. I'm scrolling back just to double check because I feel like I'm missing characters. Let me see. Nope. Nope. Yep. I can't find any. Did people mention anything in the chat? Let me look. Oh yeah, Zabuza. Gilgamesh. Yeah. I guess. Well, I guess Twice. Twice is probably one of my heroes' better villains, if anything.
Oh yeah, the narrative around Twice is pretty solid, especially in the manga. He gets like critical development. Like Twice starts out as this like bumbling, goofy dude, and then he becomes like one of the foundational members of the League of Villains.
I wouldn't. I mean, so if you're talking about his introduction, yeah, bumbling and goofy. If you're talking about his backstory is a very like my power kind of got out of control, and unfortunately, I've developed a multiple personality disorder, with also an inherent fear of his own ability. Like his ability, he's fine with in any other context, but he literally won't make clones of himself because of what happened last time, where his clones ended up attacking each other, and he ended up cutting himself and almost killing himself because of it. So he had to murder all of his clones, and he's under this constant fear that he's not even the real him. He literally won't even take off his mask because he thinks he's gonna lose his mind. Like the dude suffers a lot mentally, but unfortunately he's able to come to like a healing place with a toga, and then starts developing friends even though you're with a terrible crowd. But they accept him and they let him work through his shit his own way, and essentially act as a support for him, even if they're not like all with the best intentions. And then the irony being that his wantingness to make friends and connections is what puts him in harm's way, and the thing that gets him killed isn't another villain. No, it's a hero. It's a hero. Hawks
Well,
is double
yeah,
agent
but
shit because
Hawks is
Hawks
kind of on the
recognizes
villain
how
track.
dangerous Twice could be, especially when Twice started developing and getting over his like fear of cloning himself, and we got things like Sad Man's Parade. Like
Mhm.
it became obvious that Twice legitimately would be a dangerous, extremely dangerous threat. And Hawks handling things the way he handled it, although it was probably strategically smart, led to something much worse in the form of Toga's vengeance, which was her having Twice his blood, using his ability to do all the crazy and heinous shit she ends up doing in the war, which obviously is what's going on, kind of going on in the manga currently for
At present day.
for the manga currently. Um, so Twice is a good minor villain who ends up having a greater impact further along through characters like Toga. Um, he also, to me, is a representation of what Gentle could have been. Gentle easily could have been down that same path.
I like
Weirdly
Gentle.
enough, huh?
Gentle's great. He doesn't do Gentle didn't do anything too crazy. Like as far as I know, he didn't
Well,
like
because
waste
Gentle
people.
represents a different part of the society. Him and Jin are kind of like two sides of a same coin. The whole failure of society. The difference is that arguably Jin already had problems beforehand, and if anything,
Yeah.
his ability exacerbated him. Uh, but they both wanted to like. Well, I wouldn't even say they both wanted to be heroes. I would say,
But Twice fell through the cracks and Gentle was not so far gone that he couldn't be helped.
well, it was still one of those things. They're both characters who were failed by modern society.
Yeah, Hero Society failed them.
Like there was neither of them had. What helped him was a girl who shared in her like a girl who shared in Gentle's vision. The advantage is that he had Brava. He had Brava, and then he also had Deku, who didn't throw him under the bus and give up on him outright. And it allowed him to be relevant and important and actually serve a purpose in society and regain what he had lost, essentially. Also,
I like
Lightning, as far as Man of Steel is concerned, I don't really care for it. To me, it's not really what Superman is, it's just what people think Superman should have been. And for me, oh shit. Not a fan. Not a fan. What were you saying, Navy?
I like how the anime treated Gentle. Like after Izuku beats him and they take him away, They're not just like they don't antagonize him and torture him and throw him in jail like a typical villain. Like they're like, oh, okay, we looked at your your history. It seems like we kind of goofed up and like you made a mistake a while ago, and that precluded you for something. So we don't want you to turn to villainy. So we're gonna help reform you. And he's like crying. He's like, can I have some tea? He's like, not the expensive kind. I was like, that is pretty funny.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate the some of the villains in My Hero. Like it all just kind of hinges on what you are into, but some of them can be super. The point is that some of the villains can be interesting, but the real point is that death can mean different things. Yeah, Gentle and me are technically the same age currently, because I'm 32. Lightning, we're not gonna get into Superman because it's a whole other thing, and plus that we already hit the 2 hour mark, so I kind of want to just do some closing thoughts. Essentially, there's right and wrong ways to write anime deaths in series. It kind of just depends on the world and the story you're trying to build. I think the best kind of deaths are the more straightforward, like shit happens in an arc, and that death changes a person or leads to some sort of development or change in the world. That will always be more engaging. Like, I appreciate what One Piece and even Black Clover try to do by having the deaths be more prevalent in the flashbacks, because they want their characters to be more prevalent in the main story, so they don't ever fully kill characters except for a very small handful of examples. And handful is probably exaggerated, because technically they haven't even killed 5 main timeline characters currently, so it's not even really 5. At most, it's like 3 or some shit. But that's besides the point. I can appreciate writing, but I feel like there are certain traps the manga artists and just anyone who's writing a story should avoid. And for me, those traps are simple. One, don't make death unimportant in your series, which means don't fucking make it to where it's such a common occurrence that no one cares when it happens. Also, don't do the sin of introducing a character and killing them in the same arc, and don't make a habit out of doing that. On top of that, that murdering of certain types of characters should be frowned upon, like murdering main characters. That's just a bad habit. Try to have some weight behind their death. Like, it should connect to either the character, to other characters around them, the main story, or just have some sort of ripple effect. Let their death be relevant. Now, again, I get that in certain series and certain worlds, death isn't meant to do that. Like I said, there are plenty of characters who die, like a bunch of fodder characters who die in like shows like Attack on Titan, that I recognize that's just showing the violence and grimness of the world. You're fighting fucking monsters that can kill you at any moment. Of course, you're gonna have a bunch of characters who die without their stories being relevant. But if you go through the effort of designing them specifically and giving them a full name and backstory and this full development, do something more interesting with their death. I think those are the main gist, though. I think that's the main things to cover. I mean, I missed some stuff, but obviously it's been 2 hours, so it may be in other parts of the stream that you can go check out. But as far as plans for this weekend, tomorrow we will do Persona 3 Reloaded on Twitch. Sunday we chillin'. I think Tyrone and Richie are streaming on Sunday, so that's a thing. And then next week for me is a short week because of Good Friday. So I'll only be working 4 days, which is great. So you won't. And then on top of that, Polly isn't streaming Pokemon. So Tuesday will be Grandia 2. I got to pick a new game since we beat Penny yesterday. And Friday will be another YouTube stream. Also, gaming-wise, I think Princess Peach, Dragon's Dogma, and was it Ronin? What is it? Rise of the Ronin all came out today. So no matter what platform you're playing, you got something to play, goddammit. And also appreciate Studio Navy being in here shooting the shit for the last like 30 minutes or so. Although the studio was muted, but that's fine because I know he wasn't working anyway.
You can send my check in the mail.
Ooh, you're implying I get paid, aren't you?
I see those donations you get.
Man, what donate? Not tonight. You didn't see shit. I ain't see any. If you saw donations, you need to point them out to me, so I can not expect some money. It's fun. He'd be like, all right, so here's the PayPal, and this is what you, and then this is what. How you more expensive than the videos I make? Like, what the fuck?
Everyone donate to Terrell. PayPal.studiopiro.
Yeah, donate to Terrell.
I feel like that's a. I feel like that's a. I feel like that's like. I feel like a studio parent ever found that shit. I'd be like, yo, I heard you using my name. I'm gonna need the funds you required.
My studio has 2 T's and a capital D.
Ooh, patent pending. Check out his LLC, baby.
Hey.
But with all that being said, though, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for the support. I will see you guys tomorrow on Twitch.tv. The Insane Gang Freak. Let's a game. Play to win. And I will catch you guys tomorrow. And if it's raining where you're at, like me, stay dry. And if it's dry where you're at, fuck you. Share your sun with me. I appreciate it. All right, guys. I will see y'all tomorrow. Peace and O. There we go.
You streaming Final Fantasy